So, has the pH levels changed within the past 10 years?
No, we've been doing monitoring for probably 30 years
Mm-hmm.
on the North Fork of the Gunnison, back in Minnesota Creek. Up on the wall there's a map. I don't know if you can see that. Photograph, actually, which shows the mine site and the river, and then back back in these mountains is the Minnesota Creek drainage.
Mm-hmm.
This is Sylvester Gulch. There's an unnamed gulch over here that we also monitor. And so all the springs, natural streams, rivers we monitor and take samples of. We have, in accordance with our permit, we have a permit document that this is the set of regulations for coal mining. And to answer these regulations, we have 22 volumes this thick that tell how we are going to comply with regulations, which include the water quality regulations.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that is that we had to develop a monitoring plan to so that we know, one, what the water quality was before we started.
Yeah.
It's called baseline.
Yeah.
And then move on from there. But long story short, we have not seen any impacts to pH from our water discharges. And one of the reasons is, and you can't see it very well on that aerial photograph because they're kind of off the site here, but a series of roads and ditches and drainages
Mm-hmm.
had to be constructed on the mine site so that practically every drop of water that hits this mine site, including snowmelt runoff, is captured in a pond
Mm-hmm.
and treated and released after it's treated. And it has to meet certain water quality standards, including pH. So the pH standard is between 6 and 9. You can't go below 6 and you can't go over 9. I can tell you that 9 has been approached.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because some of the water, we don't have a lot of water that comes out of the mine.
Yeah.
It's mostly just sediment that we're dealing with on the mine site.
Mm.
But if you have water that's been in residence in the deep, deep bedrock formations, it picks up the salts.
Mm-hmm.
So it tends to push it towards the 9
Yeah.
end of the spectrum. So we have to be careful there. And sometimes we have to treat for that.
Yeah.
So, but have had very little issue with that. And frankly, the native water in the North Fork has been a lot less. I mean, we could not meet water quality standards if we pump water from the river, put it through a water treatment plant, we drink and shower with it,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's the source of our water, and we don't want to mess it up.
Yeah.
But technically, if we were to pump that water out of the river, just turn it around in a hose and pump it back in, we'd be in violation of our permits.
Yeah.
Because the water in the river is dirtier than what comes off our mine site.
Mm-hmm.
And we found that
Mm-hmm.
through our testing. We do monitor through the high flow season. May, the peak flow was or will be, I think, just next week. Typically in May, mid-May,
Mm-hmm.
is when peak flow in the river occurs. And we do what's called the rising limb and then the low flow limb. So we're testing from about May through October.
Mm.
In the river, not only flows, but the basic quality parameters. Total suspended solids, total dissolved solids, pH. We do some metals testing, just to be sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the things that the Colorado Department of Health has focused in on because it's an area of concern. So probably a lot more answer to your question.
No, that's okay. It's perfectly fine. And these was just one of the things that I was unsure about. I was wondering how pH affected wildlife.
Well, the only wildlife that is directly affected, of course, is fish.
Mm-hmm.
And crustaceans and the other little critters in the water. pH could probably affect them in that some species are intolerant to salts, to salt loading.
Yeah.
And that's probably why so much attention's been paid to the selenium and salinity reduction programs, is because of those impacts. Along with, if you use high saline or selenium waters to irrigate with, it affects plant growth. Mm-hmm. And so then in turn could affect wildlife.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and then I guess you already answered this by, telling me that you had those settling ponds, but I was just wondering if what the mine does anything else to prevent coal or other harmful toxins from entering the river.
Well, I guess the first comment is coal is not toxic.
Yeah.
It is a mineral, and it isn't toxic, and it's not acid forming. Mm-hmm. One of the things that's in this rule 4.14.3, as a matter of fact, is our plan to ensure that if any, and it's across the board for any mining, but to make sure that we don't have any acid forming or toxic leaching kinds of materials on our site. Mm-hmm. We have to perform tests on our coal and the soils that we put over it. Mm-hmm. And so we've proven that through testing, and we don't have any of that kind of material. So we don't have any, again, we are regulated. We do have specific discharge parameters that we have to meet before we can release the water to the river, and it's cleaner than we found it in a good scouting way.
Yeah. And I was wondering, how frequently does the mine take samples from the river?
We've been sampling more frequently, in fact, monthly while the river's flowing. And we've also done what's called the critical low flow, is when you have the lowest flow in the rivers when the quality could be impacted the most.
Yeah. If
you were to have a discharge that didn't meet those discharge parameters. So, and that's because the EPA and the Colorado Department of Health are getting more stringent on river segments, either having to do with again, that selenium salinity program, or gold medal fisheries and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And so they focus on different segments. Coal is not, shall we say, in the limelight these days. We're actually in the crosshairs, which means a lot of focus, negative focus, is put on us. And it is said that we cause these problems, or in fact we're showing over and over again we have better water quality than what's in the river.
Yeah. And then I was wondering what other things you tested for when you collected samples from the river.
Again, we've done all the basic parameters: total suspended solids, total dissolved solids, iron content. We've done some arsenic analysis, other metals. I'm trying to think of those areas. Again, those areas that are of interest and focus of the environmental community. Mm-hmm. And in fact, we do every year, we put all of our data from back, we probably have 20 plus years of an annual hydrology report where we summarize and present all of the data from native springs and streams to the ponds that we collect our water in from the mine water, and we provide all that data and present, did we have an impact? And we have not. In general, we can say we discharge cleaner water than we got out of the river. And again, mine water is somewhat, if it's specifically from the mine and it's come from deep in the rock, it is different quality.
Yeah.
And we handle that differently. So.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.